trying to do. They've been doing that top-down control.
Let me ask you a question. I see you as politically savvy. You've obviously taken a great interest in the political sciences. Can you tell me, can you name the last statesman we have ever had in this country, federally or state? Can you recall a statesman?
Yeah, probably John Anderson, former Deputy Prime Minister John Anderson.
Yeah. A man in the ilk of Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what made John Anderson, actually, you're right. What made John Anderson stand out for me is the fact that he could have achieved so much more, but he didn't have the desire to do that. He didn't have the desire, which makes him even more attractive.
Yeah, it's the George Washington effect. That's what I call it. It's the George Washington effect. And you, sir, you, Graham, you are a victim of this. You do not want power, and that's why people like you. That's why it's hilarious. And John Anderson was the same. I mean, he did have to step down because I think he had cancer or some kind of health impairment. But that's what it is. If you, as a society, if you can find those people that don't want power, and if you can somehow coerce them into running the country, because they genuinely see it as a service. They see it as serving their countrymen. They might not, I mean, President Trump, I know a lot of people may not like him. I really liked him. The guy didn't take $1 for his service. He donated, so he was on a $400,000 salary a year. Every 100,000, he'd be paid quarterly. He'd donate that to the latest thing that happened. So if there was a disaster at the military, he'd donate it to the military veterans. If there was a disaster relief because a tornado had blown through, I don't know, Florida, he'd donate it there. And he didn't take $1 for himself. And I think that's servant leadership that we haven't seen. And that was what George Washington, emulated. He didn't want the power. And that's why I think a lot of people are drawn to you, if you don't mind me saying, Graham, but also John Anderson. His time was cut short. And I think, if I may be so bold, also with George Christensen, the guy's had enough. He's just been hammered. He's been trying to serve the people as much as he wants, as much as he can. He's been trying to free Assange. He's been trying to air out concerns, but that guy's had a gutful, and he's just been, grinding at this stone for years, not just recently. And it's tough, and that's why it's so good when we to see so many people at Canberra, hundreds of thousands of people, increasing the population of Canberra by 50%, because it gave them, for the first time in the history of Canberra, support. Because Canberra is a cesspool. I've been there when there haven't been the hundreds of thousands of people. It's demonic in Parliament House. I mean that. I mean that in the most literal sense of it. Like you walk through the corridors. I asked you this, Graham, when you were there. You walk through the corridors, you can hear the people whispering and scheming. You'll be walking past them, they'll stop talking, and then when you're past further enough, it's like they start whispering again, and like, oh, who was that? What was it? It's disgusting. It's unchristian.
I felt like a piece of effluent being processed through a septic tank when I went into Parliament House. It is sinister. And one reporter in there, in Craig Kelly's office, asked the question, you said in your speech that the Parliament House was satanic. Why are you here then? And he was really cocky about it, Well, ask Brittany Higgins what she thinks of Parliament House. Ask the people who've been subject to some of the evil machinations that have gone on in there, and the lack of action, once again, to clean the place up. Look at some of the deals that have been done behind closed doors to bring about legislation that has been absolutely detrimental to the people of Australia. Look at all of those things and tell me that place hasn't been the seat of evil. It has been, and I'm not being dramatic about it. There's a very uneasy feeling inside that place. Another reason why I wouldn't want to do it. And for all the people who hold the signs up at the rallies, hoodie for Prime Minister, thank you, but don't wish that on me. And also, it's not that easy. You can't just say, oh, we're going to vote for Hoodie to be Prime Minister. The system doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. I'm approaching my 70th year. I'm not going to be doing that sort of stuff. I'm not into that stuff. I still want to catch a brim. I still want to mow the lawn. I still want to spend time sitting next to my beautiful wife on the couch and realizing how lucky I am. I'm losing that, and I'm not going to forego that for forever.
Yeah, maybe I'm an old man too. I just want to go fishing too, Graham. I just want to go fishing and forward driving. Yeah, I mean, it really is a servant leadership thing. In I think it's Canada, they literally, with the Speaker of the House, it's voted on by both sides. They literally, it's tradition to carry the person that they nominate, that wins the nomination, into the seat, because it was supposedly historically a dangerous position to have. So you really had to be like, it was definitely serving the public. But now it's become a place of privilege. Now it's become, you know, a situation where you can rule it over people. And what's going on right now is just in society around the world, we're just having that correction where we're like, okay, we need to remind ourselves of why the Anzacs fought so hard. It's not a given. Freedom was never free. It was paid for with the highest cost in blood. And this is why we have in our constitution free travel across the borders, across the states. This is why we're guaranteed certain rights. Apparently we do, but the Prime Minister's got, I don't know, he's got some Joe Biden syndrome. He's forgotten.